Hey, and thanks for tuning in to German Chocolate, Life of a Mixed Girl, on this special series, The Experts I Know. And today, I have Austin Kase here, an award-winning writer, director, actor, voice actor, who is currently jet-setting the globe from UK to Canada, all over the US, with his short film, Hide You're Crazy, which is super hilarious. And I must say, I don't know if I've ever watched something that was so suspenseful from the very first second it starts until the end. So if you get a chance to see it, you have to see it. And not just because he's my friend. Like, this is legit, like, really good. So
you have to come along with me. You need to be my press agent. That's beautiful.
I will. I will bring my microphone and I will be there. So
I love it.
Welcome, Austin.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're talking about Hide You're Crazy. I follow you on Instagram, and like I said, you're all over the place. And I constantly see nominated. How many freaking awards did Hide You're Crazy already get?
I think we officially won 3, and we were nominated for a 4th award. So we won Best Thriller at Aesthetica, which is really cool because that was a BAFTA qualifying festival, so we could be like on some short list from that. So that was cool. We won Best Creature Short at Another Hole in the Head, which is like a San Francisco horror festival. We won Best Horror Comedy and Best Special Effects at the Flicker's Vortex, which is like another cool horror festival. Oh, and actually we just won Best Homegrown Horror Short at the Garden State Film Festival because I'm a Jersey boy. Homegrown, so it's for Jersey filmmakers. So yeah, we've done pretty good so far.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, like I said, I think the trailer is also available for people to see, right? But currently,
yes.
To watch it, you have to be at a film festival, or can you rent it already?
No, right now you have to see it in person at a film festival, but it will eventually end up online. Can't kind of exactly say when right now, but probably later this year.
Ooh, nice. Hopefully around fall, because this time you'll have big competition with Beetlejuice coming out. I'm actually looking forward to that.
True.
That was fun.
No, me too. Yeah, we're not going to compete with Beetlejuice. Oh, but you know what? Like, if you like Beetlejuice, you're going to like this short. It's in that same kind of like, there's comedy, there's horror, there's heart to it. So yeah, it's in that neighborhood.
I think it's so funny because the two characters in there seem so desperately in love. Almost. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, not trying to give away too much, but so how do I know Austin? Like, Austin just said you're from Jersey. I live in Florida, and I'm not from Jersey or anywhere else. Well, in 2022, when I kind of stumbled into on camera because my lovely agent Brittany was like, not looking for VO as much, but we do have a German client, and we could use on camera actors. Do you have experience? Send me an audition here, do an audition for me. And then I kind of got on their roster for commercials, and then I was like, well, I guess here I am. And at the same time, I was taking a business class with Lala Peters. Yeah. And I was telling her about it in the consultation. She's like, we're going to LA next week. You want to come? We're doing a boot camp and showcase. I was like, well, I don't have a job right now. I got laid off. So why not? I'm coming to LA. And that's where I met you and all of our other members that we still talk to, you know. Pam, especially, and Juan that we were hanging out with. So we went to this boot camp and we did the showcase, multi-day on camera, film, TV, commercial, and voiceover. And then you came out to Boston when Pam and I were coming up to Boston. Pam came from Atlanta to help us with our materials for a reel. So you're being
and my reel as well. We were all helping each other out. That was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun, just hanging out in that house for like days, dancing, partying, playing. And that's where I got to see Hide You're Crazy for the first time before it was completely done.
You saw it probably before anyone because it was. I don't think we even had all the effects put in yet. It was
Nope.
like an early cut of it, but yeah, you were like one of my first audience.
When throwing the finger, I was like, that's before all of
That's right.
no spoilers here.
I think when you saw it, there were a lot of shots that were just like, this goes here. Like there was like text that popped up, and it's like, the monster mouth appears now. Like, but you used your imagination.
Oh, it held up so well when you sent me the link and I watched it. I was like, it was just as good before all of the editing. And I mean, the editing is great. I'm just saying it was already so good. Like the story. So you wrote all of it, or did you have like a co-writer on this?
No, I wrote this. So I mean, with anything you write, I definitely got lots of notes from trusted people. So and it was, like I wrote it over a long period of time. So my first draft I wrote in just a couple weeks, but you get notes, you develop it. I even took it to a workshop where I staged it with actors just to kind of get it on its feet and see how it worked, and it and it just kind of developed from there. Like when we cast our two leads in the film, I did a read through with them. I kind of changed the dialogue to kind of fit their vibe and fit their voice even more specifically. So yeah, it basically, you're never done writing until it's shot, and even then you're like basically rewriting it again in the edit. So it's always a very fluid thing.
So is it based on true feelings, how you feel on the inside?
Oh my God, yes, obviously. It really is. It's about, it's about how love can be scary, but it's beautiful. That when you get close to someone, you're going to see some of their ugliest, scariest sides, and that's part of what love is all about.
And I must say, I know not everybody cares about zodiac signs, but I am obsessed. And Austin is a fellow Libra, so
I'm a fellow Libra. Yes. Oh my God. You know what? I was just having a conversation with someone. I have to get all my details straight. Like they're like, okay, but what's your rising and what's your this, and like you have to know what time you were born, and I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's where mine ends too. And then I'm like, oh, I don't know, but I guess it would make sense for some of the extra things. How, because, a misconception is a lot of people will say, if you look at it, that Libras are like lazy. And, but most of us,
that's not you.
No, and not you either, or Kim Kardashian or any of us. But what my theory also is, I mean, we all develop things in life, is there is some things, if I were to just stop and completely relax, I could be lazy about. Like, I don't leave my dishes in the sink, because if they pile up, they will stay there, So I take action, and I won't leave anything in the sink. So
I have my lazy moments too. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of evidence that would support that theory about me as well, but it's selective.
But we're go-getters in that sense. So one day,
go-getters.
Go-getters, totally. Self-made go-getters. That speaks the same. So I guess, I mean, when I met you at first, I was like, oh, you're a voice actor. Oh, but we're also doing this acting workshop, so you're also on-camera actor. That's how you got with Kia Todd then also, because that was one of the agents that was there at our showcase. And then I found out you're a filmmaker. But when I look online, I was like, wow, this dude has made a lot of films. So what came first?
It was definitely, well, oh my God, going way, way back. I acted as a kid. I was a stage actor in Philadelphia, believe it or not. And I did this acting camp at the Walnut Street Theater in Philly. And from that, they invited me to audition for a stage show. It was Great Expectations. It was like an adaptation of like a Charles Dickens, and it was like playing young Pip, who was like the lead. Most of the play, most of the book, he's an adult, but in a little bit at the beginning, maybe the first 30 minutes, he's a child. So I was in that, and that kind of got me started, and I did some on-camera stuff. I must have been like 11, 12, 13. Into high school, I did that. But I kind of I let it go a little bit when I started kind of focusing on, I decided I wanted to go to college versus go all in on acting and not go to college. So I kind of let it drop for a while, but I missed it. I always enjoyed it. And I really got back into it professionally during the pandemic. Basically, there was everything was shut down and there was nothing else you could do. But I was like, it's sort of in the back of my mind. I've been thinking like I should do some voiceover. I did like a little bit, very much on the side. Like every once in a while, I would side hustle of like a friend would need some voiceover, and I knew I had a voice that could be good for that. But during COVID, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finally drop everything and like figure out the technical stuff. And I did. I learned how to like put together a voiceover booth and how to set up a microphone and all that
Nice.
stuff. And managed to get repped and stuff and book some stuff during the pandemic, and so that got me on the road. And but that's what led me to you, because I Law was one of my reps for voiceover, and she was like, oh hey, I know you want to get into on camera again, and I'm having this showcase for my actors in LA, and do you want to be part of that? And yeah, and it bore fruit. As you said, I did two of Law's things. I booked with I signed with Kia for LA, and then I signed with Ramona Patera in New York.
Oh, you went to the New York showcase? Did you go there before or after the LA one? Because I know she did New York a couple times. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was after. So I because LA was successful and I booked with Kia, I thought, well, hey, like, at the time and currently right now I'm on the East Coast, so I was like, you know what, I'm here. I'm available for on-camera stuff in the New York area.
Yeah.
Why not? And so, yeah, that managed also to pay off.
New York is the next on my list, because when I was there, I got my voiceover representation in LA with Theo. That's what I ended up getting. So that I was super stoked about that. And but I'm represented by two agencies down here in the Southeast, commercial, and sometimes they will look for a theatrical, but I'm not officially on the theatrical list yet for them. So New York is like really big on there, but I'm like, have a goal by the summer I just got headshots, but a little better ones. And I want to get a new commercial voiceover demo, because mine is like from the very beginning and I hate showing it because it's definitely not where I'm at right now. So I'm not sending that to anyone.
It's so funny. So, yeah, I've also got to do a refresh. I've put up, so fortunately, like, from some of my bookings, they sent me like video samples, so I put more of that on my site. But yeah, the actual just audio reels are a little, they're just hitting the point where they're a little dated now. So yeah, I gotta finally sit down and re-edit some of these.
Yeah, but that's freaking amazing. So are you able to manage, doing filmmaking and traveling and doing all the auditions? Have you had any issues with that? You booked something and you happen to be on the road for the film or anything, or has it been kind of smooth?
I do have to report to my reps what my blackout dates are, but generally, so actually one thing that I did, this was a tip from Pam, actually, our friend
from the ATL.
Yeah, exactly, from the ATL. Yeah, she so Pam told me about this great mic called the Tula mic. It's just this really cool tiny little microphone. It's like a USB-C connection. It connects right to your computer, and it's like, for being on the road and having auditions, it's great, because it's like it's not as good as this, it's not as good as like your home soundproof studio, but it has incredible noise cancellation. So like you can be in just like the worst environment and it'll still be like a pretty good sound. You'll hear mostly your voice and very little background, and your voice will have like a pretty decent richness to it. And again, it's just like, put your computer down, plug it in, set up the noise cancellation, and then you've got like a good enough for auditions. Like, I would never do a real job in this mic, but like for an audition where they just want to like hear you pretty clearly and just hear what your voice sounds like that's pretty good. So that's freed me up to do voiceover audition pretty much while I'm on the road. And the other thing is, I have like a ring light and a ring light stand and stuff like that. So I'll usually travel with that just in case. It's a little bit too much for me to travel with my like backdrop. That doesn't quite fit in the suitcase, but like I could get my ring light into the suitcase. So, actually that just happened. My most recent film festival was in Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa. And I had an on-camera audition pretty much right when I landed. And yeah, I just set up my ring light stand, phone. It has like a little holder for your phone.
Yeah.
And it was like a direct Zoom call with the client. So I was just Zoom calling through my phone, set it up, and lit myself just in my hotel room. So,
Oh, that's actually nice
it's
because the recording of it, like when I had to record, like once I went to LA, but up in the mountains, we were in cabins. I was like, oh my God, there's no good background, but it was a self tape. So I had to do the best I can. But at least when it's live, I mean, a lot of those rooms you go into, they're kind of plain too.
Yeah.
As long as you have space. So that's actually worked out better then for you.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to self-tape it, I would, find a bit of wall or something, something that was blank to stand in front of. But, I mean, a lot of people complain about, I think there definitely are downsides to the kind of self-tape from home, setup, or sometimes people don't get a sense of you that they would get if you were there in person, or you're able to kind of read them a little bit more, and what are they responding to, what do they like, what do they not. But on the flip side, there is just a convenience factor of like, you can audition for so much more versus having to be in the city within driving distance, and you're burning gas every time you want to go out to an audition and whatever.
For me, it would be taking off from work. Like if I had to take off every time from work for audition, I wouldn't even be able to have a job, because when they come in, I mean, the audition, then you got to get lucky to get the callback and then that. But it's interesting, the last callback for a commercial I got, because when you do these on the Zoom, like I really don't see everyone on there. I see maybe the casting director, but there were like two of the producers on there. I didn't even see them. They were like, oh, they're here. And I'm just pretending I'm seeing them. I was like, hey. And they were texting each other back and forth about what they wanted me to do. And it was so interesting because my first callback this year, I was in the room like 3 minutes. I was like, either they hated it or they loved it. I don't know. But I was only in there for like 3 minutes. But this one, I was like longer. And then they're like, all right, thanks. And then this one guy, one of the producers goes, oh, hold up. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? He's like, I know we're texting back and forth. Can I try something else real quick? And I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea what they were doing while I'm watching. I didn't know they were texting each other, like if they wanted to see more, what they wanted to see. And then, he's like, hey, imagine this and this. And I do it. And at the end, he goes, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. I didn't end up booking it. But for me, I was like, oh, my God, this guy kept me in the room. And now I kind of know. They're like back there just texting back and forth like, whatever. Okay, hey, let's give her a shot.
No, I mean, and it's nice to like have a human being on the other side. I think like, yeah, you can get really lost, I think, in the self-tape world of just like, am I even in the right neighborhood with what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting a read from them, and they can't make adjustments like where, I think it's nice to feel like I can give you, if you just told me what you wanted, I could give you specifically what you wanted.
That's how I am. That's funny that you say that. Like every time, like even in voiceover, I give my 2 takes. Either they like one of the two, like during a recording, or they're like, hey, try this. And I get what they mean and I do it. Just because I imagine it to be a certain way doesn't mean that you thought that way. And it's funny because at the film festival I went to, the Sunscreen, there was a casting director in a workshop, and she was like, well, when people were there, I would give them a redirect. Now I watch the self-tapes, and if I don't see it, I'm like, next. And I was like, oh my God, that's so like terrible. Because before they would have cared, they liked you, and they were like, let's see if she can do this or that. And now they're just like, well, this one person already gave us the one thing we wanted. So it's like luck. Yeah. It's really luck.
It is. It's luck. And I mean, the other flip side of it is like, it's convenient because everyone can do it, but then that means everyone can do it. And you're buried under such a pile now of, I'm sure, every job is like 10 times as competitive as it probably was when it was just whoever could drive out and do the audition, which like, that's good because like in theory people have more choices. But I think it's probably also the case that they're not necessarily listening to all of it. I think they listen up until they hear one where you're like, oh yeah, that works. And then, if you're, that's why they say get your auditions in quick, because you want to be higher up the pile. Yeah. So it's just kind of the reality, but I think that's why you're hustling and I'm hustling in other areas, because you can't really depend on it, as your one thing. I mean, there's some people at the top, sure, but you've pretty much, even successful voice actors that I know have other hustles and have other income sources.
And it also helps because I mean, what they say about actors can or cannot be true. Either we have like identity issues, we love playing other people, we want attention, like whatever people say. There's always a little bit of truth to that. But if you like trying to live your dream, you're putting all this effort in recording, you're getting all this stuff and taking all this time, and there's maybe something you really wanted, it can get really heartbreaking while you're waiting for this next thing. Like I track all of my things on a sheet. And sometimes I feel like there's nothing, and sometimes I feel like a lot. And when I compare the months, it was actually the exact same amount. But depending on what goes on in my life, it feels completely different. So having other things that bring you joy.
It's nice to have other things.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's so true. And it's true also with the filmmaking side of my life. It's like, you know, if all of your eggs are in one basket, you can just drive yourself crazy. You're focusing on it all the time, and you take everything so personally, and you're like checking and hoping of like, oh, did something happen? Did something, you know? And it's nice to put that energy into other productive things, because if it's going to happen, you'll know it's not going to miss you. You know, like if they want you for that part, they will track you down. But you know, you're not going to have to check in. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot we wanted you for the part. It totally slipped my mind.
Sometimes I'd be like, I wonder if my agent checked their emails. maybe they missed it. Maybe it's in the spam folder. I'm like trying to tell. I'm just like
in the film world, the equivalent is did you get into a film festival? Where it's like you're like, oh, maybe they haven't just sent out the thing yet, or like, you know, maybe they forgot me, you know, maybe they sent it out to me but it went into my spam or something like that. And it's like, no, if they want you for their film festival, you're gonna hear about it. They're gonna figure out how to reach you.
Totally. So speaking of like the film festival, so I've been wondering, seeing how many shorts come out and people make indie films, and you know, some people will like pay and some people won't. But what is the return on investment? Do you actually get some sort of money? Because I know it costs money to submit to the, you know, film festivals. You got to pay everyone that probably works on it, even if they're volunteering. There's money. How does one get money back? What is the return on investment?
Yeah, well, so short films are a terrible investment if you're trying to make money. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly hard because, like, you know, with a movie, like a feature-length film, not in today's climate, the way you would probably make your money back, your dream scenario would be you sell it to a streamer, and so that's where you get your money back, you know. It used to be in like the indie movies that went to theater days in like the 90s and stuff. It would be like you would maybe get a percentage of the box office receipts. You would get a percentage of the DVD sales, things like that. But nowadays you're hoping for a big upfront payment basically from a streamer. And if you are an indie creator and you own the intellectual property rights to your work, then that money is mostly going to you, or it's being split between you and other people who might have a stake in it. For a short, there's just not really as much of a market. You know, people will pay to see a feature-length movie. Not as many people will pay to see a short. But there are ways to make a little bit of money. Like, yeah, people will like, you know, put your short up on a streamer, just not for that much money. Like, so I think Amazon will put some shorts up. Like, if you have horror, like Shudder will. And then there's other streamers that I think will pay you a little bit of money. Like if you go up on one of those YouTube short film collector sites like Alter or Dust or Amuletto or Film Threat, I think you get some kind of a nominal fee. It might be a few $100s or like $1,000.
So what is the motivation on that one? Is it really just like a passion project? You want to get it on the toes and it's just something you spend money on, or?
Yeah, I think most people view a short film as an investment in like a calling card. And it depends on your objectives as a filmmaker or an actor even. But so if you're a filmmaker and let's say you have bigger goals, like you want to make a feature film, or you want to make a TV series, or you want to show that, you know, you can direct music videos or commercials or something like that. You know, you might invest some money or raise some money and make a short that really shows off some aspect of your skill as a director that you want people to see, and going to film festivals and winning awards and getting, you know, reviews written about you, whatever. Yeah. That's basically, you're paying for like an advertisement for you. And it's something that actually people will, you know, like people in the industry will track some big festivals and like, oh, what's winning awards at this festival? What's getting selected at this festival? If you're an actor, and I see this a lot too, you might want to make a film that you star in. So, like, let's say you're not getting the roles that you want to get, or you're not getting submitted for those roles. You might be like, well, I can do this role, and I want people to see me in that light. I can just write my dream role and cast myself. So there's a lot of like actor vehicle shorts that
That's
I see
actually
also on the
interesting
festival circuit.
because that
Yeah.
leads me into another question. So if I were to use like an example for myself, like years ago, I started writing a book, and that's how this podcast actually came along. I was like only 3 chapters. It's like, oh, I hate this. I'm just sitting there for hours writing. Who has time? I love talking, so let me make it a podcast. So that's how German Chocolate Life of a Mixed Girl started, from the book They Call Me German Chocolate that I started writing in 2013.
Yeah.
And my dream was like for this to be like a movie, like a coming of age kind of story of this girl, mixed girl coming from Germany, all these cultural differences, even though I spent like my summers in America, and all of the dating weird things that happened to me, like being a Libra, you always want to be in love, so you get caught and like stuff, of course. So,
Of course.
and like living in Florida, Detroit, New York, and doing all of the things, I was like, one day there's going to be a movie. So if I were to decide today, all right, I want to make this happen, what are the steps that you take when you're like, I have the idea? Where do you start? What are your steps?
Yeah. So, first of all, that sounds like a good movie to me. I think you should not let go of this. I think you should definitely do this. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, it all starts with the story. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's so true. Like, the script, I think, is still the most important thing. Even if you don't have a great execution on a great script, people will connect with it and feel emotional about it. And you can have just like Hollywood quality execution of a terrible script, and no one will care. People won't connect with it. So, start with that story. I say, like, people are really, really eager to get to the filming part because it's really fun and it's exciting, and there's more of these like kind of physical external things that are a little bit more in your control. The writing part is kind of scary, and you don't know how long it's going to take, and there's a lot of unknowns. But I would say start with, especially like shorts are really good for this, where you don't need a full feature film that has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's like all the little beats are complex and you've really massaged it. It's like, find like that one, like, what's one scene in this movie that you're like, this is a great scene, or this is a scene that has a lot of emotion. Is it like, what was one challenge? Like, what's it, often like shorts will have to do with like a dilemma or like a moment that something changed. So it's like, if you can isolate one scene like that you see and feel really clearly, like there's a clear emotion and there's a hook. And then I would say, so write that out. And then I think the other beauty of shorts is you want to make it tight. You want to make it short, because you're going to be like, it's not just for the judges who program the festivals, but think about the audiences that go to these festivals. And like, you're going to be in a block of like 5 shorts or 6 shorts or 10 shorts sometimes even. So like, what's going to make yours stand out? And it's not like a feature film where people have paid their ticket and they're going to sit down for an hour and a half, 2 hours. They've given you the benefit of the doubt, so they're like, all right, you can a little bit ramp up into telling us your story. No, it's like, get right to it. Like, the first thing we see has to like catch people's attention. So I think that's kind of that's the goal. It's like, it's simple. It gets you right off the bat. There's a clear emotional pull, and then something surprising. Something happens, that some kind of a change, or something is revealed, or something that people don't see coming from the very beginning. And if you have those ingredients, then it's like, it's probably pretty good. And the other thing I would say as a practical matter is, again, this depends on your goals as a filmmaker, but, try to keep it as cheap as you can, because as cheap as you think it's going to be, it will be more expensive than that. Movies always cost more than you think they are. There's always things that happen that are unexpected, or things that go wrong, and you need money to or whatever. It needs better sound, it needs more
so you
music,
need to plan that in.
Yeah.
So as you're writing, you're pretty much planning for your timeline.
Yeah, it's going to be 15 to 20% more expensive than you think it is, no matter how expensive you think it's going to be.
It's like a wedding.
Yeah, and also, I mean, yeah, and the other thing is if you're going to go the route of film festivals, which that's not to say that's the only route to go. I mean, now sometimes people will just go straight to YouTube or whatever, straight to like TikTok even. Who knows? People get like there's no rules anymore. It's
Yeah,
just however
vertical
you want
shorts
to
are a
reach.
thing now too, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
People like kind of watch that short form. That's why I feel like there should be more room for shorts in a sense, because our attention span is like not really there. There should be more room for it.
I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to figure this out. They tried to do it with like Quibi, and it didn't quite work out. But I mean, yeah, look there again. It's just about think about your goals. Who is your audience? Who do you want to see it? And figure out the most cost effective way to get to those people.
Well, how do you know it's cost of like that? It's cost effective. What are you factoring in, and what is things that people might forget to factor in?
Well, yeah. So okay, you want to have good sound. That's probably people think about the visuals. They want a nice camera, they want a nice lens, they want fancy lighting. But if you have all that and the sound is bad, it's not going to matter. So you have to, you want to either you're going to invest in some sound equipment for yourself, or you're going to just hire a good sound mixer, which is probably the better way to do it. But yeah, I mean, you generally should be paying people on your crew. Like, obviously, there's circumstances where you're just making a movie with your friends, and that's fine as long as everyone's on board with it. But, like, usually if you want a professional product, and look, if you're going the festival route, the movies that end up in these festivals now look like Hollywood movies. Like, people put a lot of resources into these festival shorts. So, if you want to be sort of competitive with that, like you want to have a crew that are going to give you a professional.
So what's like a good
product.
budget if you say, all right, you do a 10-15 minute short, regardless, the theme or anything? What is like a minimum budget somebody should have on the side?
It all sort of depends. So like there's no one rule that applies in all circumstances, but the general rule of thumb that I hear a lot is expect it to cost $1,000 a minute of finished movie. Now, like, people break the rules all the time if they're really clever. So, like, I'll give you an example. When we just went to the Cleveland International Film Festival, which is a really good one, and one of the horror shorts that played in our block was super cool. God, what was it called? It'll come to me. But basically, it was it's like it's like set in the 80s. And it's like this creepy ghost in the old 80s computer. It was like a really cool concept. It looked great, looked like a Hollywood movie. But he made it for like $3,000 or something. And there's all sorts of ways that he got away with that. Well, actually, he shot it in Florida. So that's, if you're sometimes that could be good. Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you're in a state where there's no, a lot of states you need permits and you need, the state will make it more expensive, or just the taxes are high in that state, stuff is expensive. That's almost like adding, my short, we made it in L.A., and just being in L.A. probably made it like 10% more expensive.
What made
than it would have been
you
otherwise.
do it in LA, thinking like if this plays out in an apartment, it could have been anywhere? Why was it LA?
So it could have been anywhere, but if you know the specifics of my short, you know that one of the things, talking about objectives, right, as a filmmaker, I wanted to show that I could do genre movies, I could do horror, I could do special effects. So I wrote something that was as contained as it could be. It was just two actors in one location, an apartment, as you say, and it was only 13 minutes, like 13 pages. But there's also these kind of crazy special effects that start happening over the course of the movie. And one of the advantages of being in LA is that, like, there's incredibly talented filmmakers, artists just right on your doorstep. So we managed to get a guy by the name of Santino Ferrese, who's like, he does masks and practical effects for like Star Trek Discovery and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. So I mean, that's the beauty of LA. Like, he was available, and because we were there, he could just show up and be on set, and which was great. And like our gaffer was one of the lighting techs from The Mandalorian, and because The Mandalorian wasn't shooting, he was just available to be on set. So like,
Now
yes,
that's going to
there's
be
definitely
expensive. Yes.
there's advantages to being in LA. But like, but the flip side is not every movie needs that. My
Yeah.
movie happened to be a special effects thing, but like
It
if
would
it's
have made
like,
a
hey,
difference in yours for sure. Like
yeah,
all the prosthetics and special effects, like if they would have been cheap, if you would have skimped on it, it would have totally not turned out
yeah.
the same.
For this movie, the whole point was to show that I could do that. But if your movie is the like, hey, this is the story of being a kid and that first boy I fell in love with, or the time that I had the teacher taught me this lesson that I took with me for the rest of my life. Like, you don't need, to be in LA for that. You don't need crazy special effects. And there's things that you don't maybe necessarily need. Like, you can do a lot of the work yourself if you're willing to put in like the sweat effort. Like, so let's say you're doing like a period piece, so it's like set when you were that age.
Yeah.
Then yeah, like it's helpful if you can have like a production designer or an art director. But like, if you're like, hey, it's going to be a ton of hours, but I know exactly all the posters I want on my wall, and I know the specific furniture, and I'm going to go to the thrift store. Like, yeah, you can do a lot of that stuff.
Oh,
for
I can
yourself,
see
and
that.
that's
Yeah. It's like
indie
the
hustle.
time saving. Yeah. Like time.
Yeah.
Do you want to be able to save time and for other things, and you have the money to pay somebody? And also,
especially
if you're not
directing.
Yeah.
Because like directing is a full-time job. It takes a lot of effort and time and focus and attention. And so you don't want to be doing 10 other people's jobs if you can avoid it.
Oh my God,
And also,
no.
I mean, the beauty of film also is that it is collaborative. So like, it's nice to, other people are more expert at their departments than you are. So you want to, you want people working with you who are better than you, who are going to come up with an idea better than your idea. That's sort of, in the best case scenario, you're surrounded by people who are all better than you.
Oh, I love
that.
that. When I worked for a tech company, that's like the first time in my life I've really experienced what that's like to like kind of work together, and then things just improve. That's how the tech world does, like fail fast, like don't sit on it, try to plan forever and whatever, just do it, talk. Because they're always like, I know I'm good. If somebody tells me something, oh, you could probably do this to make it better, and I wouldn't have thought of that, that person wouldn't have thought of it. So if you leave your ego by the door, especially, and you can really work on saying, okay, there's some things I might have not thought about, but this person did, and it's going to make it better, to be open about it.
I had a teacher who gave me a really good bit of advice where he said, you can get a lot accomplished if you don't care who gets credit. And I think that's like
nice.
Very, very
I got
true.
chills. That was
Yeah. And I mean, almost no one can make a film totally on their own. I'm not saying it's not, I mean, and in like the TikTok world, you can just run around with your phone. Sure. But like these kinds of movies where it's like, the lighting, the lenses, everything is like really carefully done, and you're working with actors, and it's collaborative, and that's the beautiful part of it, because you get the best of what lots of different people have to offer.
How do you feel like you have this vision in your head? So I love like analogies of other stuff. Like, when you date like someone, you're on a dating app and there's only pictures, and you talk to a person, they say that you're supposed to go on a date fairly fast, because the more of an idea of you get how the person moves, things like talks, the more you fall in love with the idea of that person. So when you then meet them, you don't have that same feeling, you get disappointed. It works as if you would have met them earlier. Not so. If you have all this months and months of writing, everything in your head, you find the right actors, and then to try to direct it how you have it, do you like leave some slack and room in there, or are you trying to get it, just how you want it?
No, I'm not like that. And actually, I'm always open. In my opinion, it always gets better in person with real people than it is on the page. I'm not like in love or precious with exactly the words on the script.
Oh, nice.
I think what more your job more as the writer is to figure out kind of the energies and the beats and the structure, because I think when that stuff isn't there, you can have the best actors in the world, and it's not. You'll just feel like something's not right. Like, even if they sell it so hard, the audience isn't going to buy that a character is making a certain decision, or like, why are we in this situation? It doesn't make like we would never have gotten into this situation. So like, if you do your homework and really the changes from scene to scene to scene, from beat to beat, all kind of logically flow from one another, and the emotion, all the characters are behaving true to themselves. Then you do have a lot of freedom. Yes, I mean you know sometimes like there's a line where I'm like, no, like the way it's written really makes sense, but like it's honestly, I don't even think that the audience is like hearing every line word for word.
That's
the way
funny that
you
you
think.
say that.
Yeah.
That's it goes right back into the tech world. I remember we were localizing content from the American content to localizing for the German market, and I was like trying to be so exact. I was like, it just, we can't really cut this. I know it'll be longer, but then the supervisor I work with, she was like, well, they don't know what content they're missing, you know?
Yeah,
like it's not in there. They're not going to miss it. They don't know it was going to be there. So it's fine if we leave it out. So to you, it seems so important, but that person didn't even know you wanted that in there. So I assume as you're cutting it, you have like all this material, you plan for more, and you have to cut some stuff out. It's probably hard to make the choices what you're going to cut.
And you're right. And that's also, I think that you almost always need less than you think in terms of dialogue. I mean, the whole cliche of like film as a visual medium is so true, that like people are really reading the scene from like, how is it shot? How are the people moving? What's their tone of voice? How are they standing and sitting relative to one another? So like that's really much more of your job as a director. And that's actually something I was very proud of with Hide You're Crazy, that I put a lot of time into the blocking of the scenes with the actors.
Nice.
We rehearsed like a full day in the space, and I brought some ideas. I mapped out how I thought the scene should go. But if they ever had a moment where they're like, well, this doesn't feel natural, like why would I do this? And we would adapt it to something where like it just felt natural for them. Like, oh, of course I would stand this way next to him or whatever. And then you're like, yeah, it's starting to kind of come alive, and you're not seeing all the artificiality of it, but their bodies are telling you the story of like, when are they getting closer? When are they pulling away? When is she nervous? When is she strong and confident? And I think that the dialogue is just like the icing on the cake, but on top of those like layers and layers and layers of the foundation that are built in already.
Well, do you know, speaking of the actors, because I mean, they were amazing, and there's only 2. How many auditions did you have to go through to find those 2?
We did go through a lot, actually. This film centers around a relationship, between a couple, and so every actor who auditioned was great. We had a really high quality pool of talent to draw from, and the most important thing was the chemistry between the 2 people. Mm-hmm. So we had all these people who were like, oh, I could see her. Oh, I could see him. And, we kind of narrowed it down. Everyone was good, but we narrowed it down to like a slightly smaller pool of men and women. And we had callbacks where we tried a bunch of different combinations together. And it actually, the couple that we ended up going with, funny enough, was not even in that group. The woman we cast was in that group. Her name is Amy Helene Carlson. So Amy Helene was in that group, and we knew that she stood out. Like what she was doing in the audition was special, and it did stand out. But there wasn't like a particular combination with her where we're like, this is like absolute slam dunk. These 2 together seem just right. And she, at the last minute, encouraged an old friend of hers to audition.
Oh my God.
And he was perfect. And the 2 of them were perfect because they just had this really easy chemistry with one another. They knew each other for years. They were super comfortable with one another. And then it was like when I saw them together, it was like, and you talk about like with, using the dating metaphor of like trusting your instincts. I think it's, and as actors, we shouldn't take this personally. I think sometimes it's just a vibe, or it's just an instinct where in like the first minute or 2, like you have to maybe check just to make sure that there's no like big glaring red flags, but like, but
that helps you as an actor then too, because now going through that as a filmmaker, obviously not for the first time, there's so much behind not booking a role, even if you've made it to the callback.
And it has nothing to do with are you talented or not.
Yeah,
I think as an actor, it's like it's easy to feel responsible, like, oh, I lost that audition because I screwed up. it's like probably not. Like you have to just bring the best of what you have, but you have to
Yeah.
also like let go and just recognize just the universe. It's not, a lot of
It's
this is out of
so
my
hard though.
hands.
Like I swear,
Yeah,
like
I
when you
know.
see, like, I feel like in voice acting, especially like Atlas, like where people get like 20 auditions a day. Obviously,
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah,
forget like you auditioned for something. But in a world,
sure.
especially now, last year and then this year, where you're lucky, you're getting 1, 2 movie auditions a month, maybe up to 10 commercials if you're lucky, and the ratio technically is 1 in 100. So it takes you 3 years to book something, technically like
Yeah.
that's like, so every time you get something and all those hours that go in and stuff, it definitely gets more frustrating. But in January, I went to Miami for a mini series as an actor, and we did a callback chemistry read, and I was like, oh my god, well, I hope. I was like, I thought there was something, but who knows? I don't know how many other people are getting this chemistry read, and I was so happy when I booked the role. And then we were down there, and it really was just a fun vibe, like what you said.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know who else was there, and I don't know what maybe other connection that person had. And I mean, it's always good to know, because then you're always trying to compare yourself. But it
Yeah,
helps,
but
like
it's
talking to
something
film.
inside of you. Yeah, I think it's like, and film, on camera is particularly this way, where again, it's not just what's coming out of your mouth, but it's just some essence that the camera sees in you, and
Yeah.
that's why, I think it's a little different from stage acting, where I think on stage you have a little bit more freedom to just kind of totally transform yourself into something that you're not.
Oh,
And
totally. Yeah.
people will kind of buy it because it's a little bit more of, the audience is using some of their imagination, and voiceover as well, where it's just your voice. So if you can maybe shape your voice one way or another a little bit more. But I think on camera, they're looking for something that's just in you, that
It's
the
so
camera can kind of
close
see.
too. Like you can't
Yeah,
even look away for a second, then it's
yeah.
done. It's done.
Right, right. And it's like, it's the camera's sort of seeing something almost behind your eyes, and so that's why the sort of the method actors and all of that, it's not about projecting something to the camera, it's about getting yourself to actually genuinely feel something for real that the camera just happens to see.
Yeah, I actually just did a audition where I was 2 different roles, and one I was like, oh, that's easy. That's kind of like the typical thing I would do, what I would think I would get. In the other one, there were just not enough lines to understand why is this person really saying it, and what are they feeling when I'm reading the direction. And as I'm trying to figure this small role out, I was like, I'm just going to have to go with something, and this could be completely wrong. But it took me quite a bit, because it stumped me. I was like, I don't even understand this weird reaction. Why did they like pick this? Because it's a weird reaction that this person would have. And it took me quite a while to film that one, because I just couldn't imagine why this person would say what was on the paper in that moment. And I was like, oh man. That was
well, that's yeah. Sometimes as an actor, you're inheriting some writing problems, and you have to be the one to be like, yes, not the director won't always solve it for you, and then you have to be like, all right, but that it ends up being your job, where you're like, I have to find some way within myself that I can believe what I'm doing. No, actually, I had an acting gig like that maybe a year ago, and it was very similar. Where like, the writer had a very weird sense of humor, and I really, certain jokes, I'm like, why is this character even doing this right now? This makes no sense. And he couldn't really give me a good answer. And I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm making up my own backstory for who this guy is, and why in this moment this is what he has to do. So, that's part, like, I do think that like actors do bring a creative aspect to the story, where you're kind of a writer in your way. You're fleshing out things that aren't, necessarily there on the page, and that is your job.
very, very true. So we brought it all around from acting into filmmaking, and then went right back into the acting world. So
that's right.
That was. It's fun. It's to see. I think I hope it motivates in a sense to see all the directions you can take, things you can do. As we were talking earlier, when things get slow and things are not in control, what can you do to keep going and to stay motivated. So you're writing and directing, making these films. You're also doing voiceover on camera. For me, it's also voiceover on camera, this podcast right here, and really training on the back end to add more skills to my resume. Because as we said, it's not just talent, but maybe they're looking for certain things. So you might like go take up a sport, dance, or what I'm doing right now, learning to be a stunt performer was not something in a million years I thought I was going to do.
No,
so.
I mean, that is kind of the beauty of this business, because I mean, all the stuff which is hard is really obvious, but you know, yeah, I do have to sort of step back and be like, hey, you know what? Like, as a writer, I'm learning new things that interest me. As an actor, I'm like finding new things. I'm challenging myself to like try new things and embody new things, and all the time. And you get to be a lifelong learner, and you're always exploring. And it's not you're not like stuck in a routine where every day is the same as every other day. Like that's what a lot of people want to have in their life. So we are lucky that that's something that we get to do. And the other thing I try to remind myself for the acting side of things specifically is, you know, kind of people hate auditioning and whatever, but like auditioning is actually when you get to act. Like, you know, so much of your life is, you know, you got to get headshots and whatever, maintain, like, you know, you're doing a lot of self-promotion stuff, but like the audition part is when you actually get to perform for people and show them what you can do. And speaking of theater, I had my first theater audition in a long time a couple weeks ago that I did not book. But it was cool. It actually, and it was, you know what? It challenged me. Like I hadn't done it. I had to like up my game and really, and I prepped this role out. I got a call back, so I made it to the last round.
Congrats.
Thank you. But like, you know, I could at least step away and be like, you know what? It was fun. Like I prepared a character. I had a take on him. And I performed it for these people.
Very
and
brave.
And like I gave it my all. No, and that's like, you know, that's sort of like what it's about, that like getting to sort of give something of yourself. So you didn't get to give it to like the whole world, but you got to give it to those people. And
planting
the
seeds again, like all the things we don't think about.
You're
audition somewhere. Yeah, planting
absolutely.
Seeds.
Planting seeds, and you're finding little things in yourself. So like maybe some of the things from that character that I tried, I use in another character, or something like that, or something I write. You know, so you just never know. No work is wasted.
Definitely. I feel like what helps for me is to not look at just the day today and then the week and sometimes the month. If I think back 6 months ago, a year ago, like especially looking back, where was I a year ago? For me, my life's so fast paced, which is why I need a lot of instant gratification often, because things just happen fast. So in this industry, it doesn't. So that really teaches you to try to slow down or try to do more. And but then I'm like, every year I look back, there were things I didn't think I was going to do, places I was going to be. So you really, really just got to be along for the ride. Trust your gut. I can only say your instincts of a connection, something that carries you, something you want to try, and just go for it. Just go for it.
Very true. Yeah, the gut is very very underrated, but it's I mean, that is really your guide in this world, because there aren't really right answers or wrong answers in a lot of art, you know, and it's just about what feels authentic to you, what feels true to you, and no one can give you that answer. You have to find it within yourself. So, and
I must say, and it's so cheesy, but when they're always like, I can't think of the exact quote, but something like, when you finally make it, it's like preparation meets the opportunity, or something like that. It is. You just do and do and do. And a lot of times, I must say, it's things I didn't expect. Something I didn't plan for, and that's the thing that happens. And even though I know this, it's sometimes hard to stick with that not the thing I thought that was going to happen is going to get there. So just being open-minded, having good friends around you, people that understand. For me, that's also really helpful. I check in with you or Pam, or I have another voice actor friend in Miami, Crystal. She's also going to be on this podcast. And having people that understand, but also people outside of it. People that will ground you, that pull you into the regular life, because it can be quite a roller coaster ride.
Oh my God, it definitely, and it's true. Like it's nice to have friends in the world so that you feel less alone, where you're like, okay, I'm not the only person going through this. Like, I definitely, I've not been around as many film people being in New Jersey the last few months, and it's like you're like, wow, my life is just on a different schedule than everyone else, so it's easy to feel a little out of it. Whereas like I'll go to a film festival and be like, oh, okay, I'm fine, you know. It's like
Yeah.
this is normal where I'm at in my life. But you know, but then you're right. The flip side is if you're only around people in your industry, then you can kind of get sucked into kind of the dramas and like the distorted, the things that seem like a huge deal to you. You step outside of that, and you're like, you know, this isn't that big of a deal. Like,
And
real
especially
people,
you see something
don't care about
online,
this.
a lot of times it looks good. I always wonder, like, it's hard for me to post things online. Sometimes I post it and it looks like, oh my God, look at all the stuff that's going on in Jess' life. But I also don't, when I'm down, I don't really want to share a lot of stuff. I don't want people to be like, have sympathy, because that's not how I process with things. But I also don't want people to think, well, it's easy for Jess. I beg to differ.
People, you know, but yeah, I mean, you're right, because like you're seeing everybody's highlight reel, you know, like you're seeing only the best of the best from everyone else's life, but you're not necessarily seeing their low moments. And you're right, even the people who post their low stuff, there can be a kind of almost performative side to that of like, I'm posting my difficult challenges right now, but in a way that is like still a little bit attractive looking, and I'm like getting your sympathy. So yeah, it's hard to have like genuinely authentic interactions online, on social media, and it's like people should definitely not look for their truth there about what's going on in life or what's going on in the world. So yeah, I think it's like touching grass, having actual friends who you see face to face,
and they know,
have a conversation on the phone, and they know what's up, is very nice.
Yeah. So where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you for any of it? They want to book you, they want to work with you, or anything. Where can we find your work? I'm going to also show it.
Yes. So most of my social media is on Instagram at Kase Films, Case with a K, so AKASE Films. But my website, if you want to see some of the stuff I've done, is austinkasefilms.com. And the short film Hide Your Crazy, you can also follow on Instagram. It's Hide Your Crazy Film, or at Hide Your Crazy Film. And it's going around to cities all over the place. So hopefully, I think I can announce this. We're going to the Lighthouse International Film Festival in Long Beach Island, New Jersey at the beginning of June. And hopefully, fingers crossed, a couple other ones that we can announce soon later in the summer. So there's a few more festivals on our list, but then look out for us. We'll probably be dropping online later in the year, maybe the fall.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. And I am so sad I couldn't see you anywhere in Florida, but whatever that next one will be, hopefully you'll come down and then we can hang out together and watch it.
I would love to go to Florida. I don't even think we got it. The Florida International Film Festival and Sunscreen are both great. I don't think we got in this year, but hopefully another movie one day. Or whatever. We'll just come hang out. We don't even need an excuse.
Yeah, come hang out.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Bring in all of y'all down here. We do need to do a reunion. So.
I would love it. Yeah, let's do a Florida reunion. That would be great.
I'm down. Not in the summer though, but we'll do that.
Yeah, in the fall.
So thanks for tuning in and listening to us chat. And hopefully some of these things were helpful or inspiring, or you're relatable, or just something new, or you were just here to be here. So catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.